3-man in a class of 50 people, which was great. And I couldn't fit well enough along, so I ended up in politics, which is full of men only. And that is but I just, before we finish it and turn it over to the people in the room, I want to ask you a little about the time perspectives, because it's very intriguing to me. You work with basically 6 levels of dimensions, 2 in the past positive and past negative, 2 in the present hedonism, present fatalism, and 2 in the future light-oriented time perspective and future transcendental time perspective. Now, and you seem to believe that a lot of past positive, a moderate amount of present hedonism, and a lot of future light goal-oriented time perspective makes for happiness in life and for a good life. Now, it sounds very simple, almost like a hi-fi audio equalizer, but how does it square with other concepts of time perspective, like in gestalt therapy, when you would attach much more of a premium to the present, the here and now, with psychoanalysis, which would attach much more of a premium to the past, or with various versions of transcendentalism, which would favor the transcendental future. So, is there any role for the transcendental future in your theory?
Oh, okay. So, the reason everything I do is autobiographical. So why did I study time perspective? I should say, all my life I'm focusing on power situations over personality. In fact, I always talk about all research in personality predicts almost nothing. The best personality tests correlate with each other. Only 0.2 or 0.3, meaning they explain very little of the variability in behavior. And so here I developed a scale, the Zimbardo Time Perspective Inventory, ZTPI, which is the most valid, the most reliable scale. People are using it around the world, hundreds and hundreds of researchers, many young people in 20 or 30 different countries. And everybody who's using our scale is getting significant results. So if you don't have a dissertation, think about it. Now, as was mentioned, is that when I thought about time perspective, the big zones are past, present, and future. We live our life in one or the other of those, so we switch from one to the other. And the reason I began to study it was, again, growing up poor in the Bronx, my father was often unemployed, and he didn't care. He enjoyed being unemployed because he didn't like to work. He liked to party. He never should have gotten married. We have six people in our family. He was a musician. He could play all instruments. He could sing. He could dance. So he loved to go party. Later on, he would have been a rock and roll guy. But we were poor. We didn't have food. And it was clear to me that the only way out of poverty is to be educated. And to be educated means one thing, to learn about being future-oriented. What I'm going to do today, I'm not going to go play with my friends. I'm going to study, because when I get the exam tomorrow, I'm going to do well in it. And if I do well on the exam, I'm going to get promoted. If I get promoted, I get to the next level. And finally, I graduate, I get a better job. So it was clear, as a little kid, I had to be educated. For my father, I had to go to work. I had to fight my father against studying. He said, don't study, you're going to burn your eyes out. Go play. He said, no, Dad, I have to study, I have to do well. And he never cared about being poor. He's what we call present hedonistic. He enjoyed living in the moment. And that's okay if you're single, that's okay, or if you have a lot of money. But it's not okay if you have a family. The most interesting thing is 1947. My father, with no education, my father didn't go to high school. In 1947, my father built a television set. Television was invented in the world in 1946, 1 year before. 1947, no one had a television set. My father had a wiring diagram, had somebody teach him how to read it, and made a television set. We showed the World Series, the New York Yankees against the Brooklyn Dodgers. My friends paid 25 coins to see it, and everybody was excited. I said, Dad, okay, you know how to do it now. We can make money, make a lot of money, we can get out of it. No. The challenge was to do one. I did one, I don't want to do it again. I couldn't believe it. I said, Dad, what's wrong? So again, it was, so I always was interested in the psychology of time stuff. How could he live in his present hedonistic zone? How could I live in the future? And my mother, of course, was always talking about the good old days, how it used to be when she was a child, when she was living in Sicily. And so my interest in time, and then in the second prison experiment, was a time distortion. Each guard shift was 8 hours, guards worked 8 hours. Each guard shift was like 1 day. There was no lights, there was no clock, there was no objective time. So each guard shift was like a day. When that shift came, it was like the end of the day. Next shift came on. Not only for the prisoners, but also for these experts to think about, how time is really psychological time is all here. And so I developed the scale, we started doing research. And what we had discovered, not people around the world, said having a balanced time perspective is critical for psychological health. It's critical financially, meaning having a focus on the good things in the past, never the negative. People who live in the negative past are post-traumatic stress disorder. You want to be present hedonistic, but only as a reward for achieving something in the future. Future simply means you live your life to be a good person, so when you die, you go to heaven rather than hell. And only some people in some religions believe that. So for example, Jews don't believe in heaven or hell. They don't have that concept. So that's irrelevant. So it's really a balanced time perspective called BTP now. Is focus on the positive in the past, never in the negative past. Present hedonistic. Present hedonistic means it doesn't pay your time. Nothing ever worked. So Pope people think that. Muslim people think that. But Allah, determines your but in future, but not extreme because you don't want to work hard. So, and there's lots of research that says when we identify people who have that balance, we see all the many things in their life are much better than people who don't have that balance. So I wrote a book called The Time Paradox. And then I wrote another book, I'm Pure, how you use these ideas in therapy.
All right, this would start another very interesting debate. I mean, it's still a debating question whether there is a Jewish concept of hell or not. In Jerusalem, there is a place, called Hinnom, and it is by tradition the entrance to hell. So yeah, they think of something, but they don't have strong ideas about afterlife. You're right about that.
I should say one,
When you finish.
Okay, one thing is, I call my book The Lucifer Effect. Why? Who was Lucifer? Lucifer was God's favorite angel. This is mythical history. Lucifer means loose light, lucidity. So Lucifer is the bearer of light, of wisdom. And so he was the #1 angel of all the angels in the universe. And one day, God decided, he was born of angels, they always do good things. He said, I'm going to create a mortal person. I'm going to create Adam, my perfect mortal creature. So he told the angels, hey, I got this thing, I got this Adam, I'm creating him, and I want you all honor and honor him. Lucifer and some of the other angels of God doesn't make sense. We are immortal, we live forever. By definition, mortal is going to die after whatever, some years. And if he's mortal, he's vulnerable to good and evil. We're angels, we're not wrong with good and evil. So, Adam should honor us rather than we honor Adam. God said, uh-oh, we made two sins. Disobedience to authority, me, moi, ultimately, by not doing what I asked you to do. And secondly, the sin of pride. And we have a statement, pride goeth before the fall. And so he said, and now you're going to be punished. And so God calls Michael the archangel, all the pictures you see in Catholicism of kind of the spirit. So he's the mafia hitman of God. So he comes down, and there's apparently a big cosmic battle. It's Lucifer, Beelzebub, Mammon, all the angels versus Michael and all the angels who were quiet. And of course, Michael wins with the help of God on his side. And so what does God do? He says, because you have sinned, because what you did I'm going to consider sin, I'm going to cast you out of heaven, and I'm going to put you in a place I'm going to call hell. God created hell to put the fallen angels. So initially, it was a conceptual place, and then over time, it might get a real place somewhere down there. And then, at first, it was just filled with fallen angels. And then also, any later mortal, after Adam disobeyed God, then any fallen. Now, how did Lucifer do? What did Lucifer do to demonstrate to God that Lucifer was right about Adam and God was wrong? He went to the Garden of Eden in the form of a serpent. He first got Eve to eat the apple, the tree of knowledge that was forbidden. You remember this story? And then the serpent, who was Lucifer in disguise, got Eve to persuade Adam to also take a bite. The moment Adam bit the apple, he proved that Lucifer was right and God was wrong. That Adam was corrupt. That Adam was capable of sin against God. Because God said, you do anything, you can't eat fruit of the tree. At that moment, what should have God done? He should have said, Lucifer, I made a mistake. I'm going to shut down hell. There's no more business. I want you guys to come back and start over. Think about it. God he didn't take a course in psychology and conflict resolution. Had he done that, he would have, the whole thing, there'd be no hell, there'd be no evil, everybody would be happy, they would give Adam a second chance of saying, switch from apples to bananas or something.
And we would all live in paradise ever after. All right, over to you guys. Who wants to go fast? And I will ask you to introduce yourselves and
hello. I'm here actually as Mike. My name is Maxim, and first of all, thank you very much for sharing so many insights with us. I wanted to ask you a question. What's your perspective on aid and help of technology in helping us to become heroes? For example, technology that can help people in emergency situations, or help people to become heroes in such situations.
I don't know what you're talking about. Can you say a little more? What kind of technology? I mean, give me an example of what you mean as a kind of technology.
So an example, a system that guides you to the nearest fire extinguisher or to the nearest safe exit.
Yeah. So essentially it's that's primitive technology. It's like heroes try to do good in emergencies. So if there was a fire, what would we do? We would all go to the exit we came in on. We would all regress like children. And if that exit was there and there, many people would be killed, trampled, because you can't get to that exit. So a hero would say, stop, and say, single line. Everybody will make it. So technology helps us exit sign, flashing, fire sign, now, there's another kind of technology that I've been arguing against. It's video game technology. So the idea is video games are newest technology, which is many young men around the world are becoming obsessed with playing video games. Video games teach you complex cognitive motor skills, shooting down the enemy. I wrote a book called Man Interrupted, someplace called Man Disconnected. It says young men around the world are becoming addicted to playing video games, and they would rather play video games than anything in the universe. Rather do with friends, with girlfriends. Many of them play video games 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 hours a day. 7 days. Nothing wrong with video games in moderation, except video games you do in social isolation. You're in your room alone. So what are all the things you're not doing if you're playing video games, say only 10 hours every day? You're not exercising, you're not talking to friends, you're not socializing, you're not doing anything creative, you're not reading, you're not writing, you're not doing the homework. You're getting obese, you're sitting eating junk food. And then the newest thing is, in almost every country around the world except Iran and China, is freely available pornography. So the break in playing video games, press the other button, and up comes 10,000 beautiful dancing women, all of whom want to have sex with you. So you watch it a little bit, get masturbate, have orgasm, put it away, go back to video games. So many boys now live in a dual world of playing video games and watching online pornography. And they would rather do that than anything else. They have given up friends, they have given up girlfriends. Kids are starting at age 6 years old watching pornography. There's a study in England that 3 porn sites are among the most visited by children 6 to 14 years old. And so I'm arguing this is a dangerous trend happening in almost every country. It's going to get worse because these are multi-million or billion-dollar industries that compete with each other. Right now, the games are made by men for male value. Video games are dominance, control, competition, and the pornography, dominance, control, objectification of women. So I believe that eventually games and pornography will be made for women because it's a market. But the newest thing that's about to happen within a few months is virtual reality goggles. Google invented goggles, made goggles. It only costs $99. When you put the goggles on, video games, the enemy is not on the screen, the enemy is here. When you put the goggles on, the beautiful naked women are not there. They can't see all around you. I think young men will never take the goggles off. And they will live in virtual reality until they die. And that's an alarm sound.
Well, think about it, guys.
You are.
Good afternoon. My name is Martin. It's very much pleasure to meet you in person and seeing you going to work huge.
Can you try to do something with the mic so that probably says professor and he's probably right.
I can speak now loud.
Okay.
So my question goes to the phenomenon of
Now it's working. Of the seduction by the power. And I ask because what I see is that the basis of this being able to get seducted by the power is the lack of feeling that I have the power about my life. I have the power to control fully my life. Now I'm totally responsible for that. And I'm not responsible for anyone else's life, but I'm responsible for mine. And my question is, do you think we're working on self-worth, self-esteem, being responsible for one's life, helps to prevent this seduction by power?
That's a great question. We all have to be responsible for our actions, morally responsible. But, and we want to lead a good moral life. My hero project goes one step further. It says, I am responsible for you. It means in every situation that I, Zimbardo, go in, I suppress egocentrism. I never ask, will people think I'm smart? Will people think I'm funny? Will girls think I'm sexy? I don't ask that question. I go in saying, who can I make feel special? Who can I give a compliment to? Who can I ask some personal question that makes them feel that Zimbardo, I identify me? And so, in my hero program, it's that everybody should be sociocentric, not egocentric. Egocentrism is the enemy of health. If I'm focused on me, I'm not noticing somebody's lying bleeding. I'm not noticing somebody sitting crying. I'm not noticing somebody's in the corner, everybody's talking to me, shocked. So again, we promote the whole idea of we want to go away from me and I to we and us. So the language. So again, it's the moment I say I want to, we, that's egocentrism. It's always what can we do? What could we do? So again, I promote the notion of a hero squad. That if something's not working in your family, in your school, when you challenge as an individual, powers could dismiss you. You're a fanatic. Once you have three people and say, sir, we believe that. Now, point of view. It has to be recognized as a point of view, as in a democracy at least. So what we teach is not only, how to be an effective bystander, how to change fixed mindset into growth mindset. We teach these kinds of things. How to change your basic perception away from egocentrism to sociocentrism. As we say, heroes are people who every day practice the social habits of heroism. Being kind, being caring, doing good deeds, being social change agents. And that's our orientation. Rick, can you give me a question?
The lady on the...
Here, upstairs.
Yes.
Okay, hello, I'm Regina. And thank you for a lovely presentation. I really enjoyed it. And I have actually two questions. It's okay. First, first you said that you think that the situation somehow influences the behavior. And don't you think that it might mean that even, for example, mental asylums may empower the mental health problems in those people who are in those asylums? And my second question is if you think that coming to power always means that you become somehow evil, and do you think that you are immune to evil? So that's it.
Okay, but there's been a lot of criticism starting in the late 60s of the last century of mental health institutions and of some of the effects on behavior of the patients being found out not to be the results of the disease itself, but the results of hospitalization, and that led to a great liberalization of the mental health system, to the introduction of various halfway houses and after hospitalization institutions, etc., etc. There is a great movie having something to do with this country. It's called One Who's Nest. It's, I think, a 6th Oscar movie made by the Czech director Milos Forman, and it's about a crazy nurse obsessed with power in a mental institution and what it can operations as a group, and also how we can produce that.
Yeah, I recommend that. It's a wonderful movie. One Flew Over the Cuckoo. Cuckoo is like a weird bird. And, many mental institutions would be referred to as a cuckoo's nest. It's a bird that flew over the cuckoo's nest looking in. Now, the other part of your question, say again. No. In order to change anything, you have to have power. I mean, little children feel, what it means to go from a child to adult is you should have more and more power over your life. What it means to be in a democracy is you have the power of a vote. What it means to have for me, the most important knowledge, the most important power is the power of knowledge. It's using your mind. The reason we should be educated, education gives you new power to think differently, think better and different than your parents ever did, anybody who went before you. Knowledge makes you have creative ideas that nobody ever had. We give people a Nobel Prize because they had an idea that nobody in the world before them ever had that idea in that same way. So knowledge, power doesn't necessarily corrupt. I think it's when it's used for selfish gain, and using your power to make you obey me. So again, parents, as I said earlier, not all parents deserve our respect. There's some parents who insist that their children obey them, really blindly. I say, as you said, in the church. So you need some degree of power in order to make anything work. You need electrical power to make your radio work. You need power makes the world go round. Only we're talking about human power and how much is enough, how much is too much. Those are questions those are fundamental questions about human nature.
And if I may add a political note, you probably all know the saying, I think it was Lord Acton who has pointed all power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And that's the sobering note, and that's why in democratic political systems, there is a premium on limitation of power, on self-limitation, on checks and balances, on things that prevent the power crazy individuals from getting all power.
We have your two questions to be upstairs on the right side. Here.
All right.
Hello, my name is Vladimir.
Your name?
My name is Vladimir. My name is Vladimir. Can you give me I would like to know whether there is a specific personality or temperament which decrease probability to have an individual to a devil, like jealous or individualism or something like that. You understand? How to
When Stanley Milgram did his research, he asked 40 American psychiatrists what percent of all Americans would switch to 450 volts. They said only 1%, because in every society, 1% of the population are called psychopaths. They're born with a brain defect that they cannot feel guilt, they cannot feel shame, They cannot feel positive emotion seeing someone suffering. In their mind, anybody who would punish someone else, it could only be a psychopath. Now, two problems. One, not all psychopaths become criminals. If you're born with a tendency, a push-toward nature, not to feel guilt. But if you're brought up in a loving, caring environment, if you're brought up without having a lot of power, you could live your whole life never doing anything wrong. But the idea is suddenly if you were brought up where you were given a lot of power or you were in an abusing environment and you're going to use this negative power so psychopaths would be negative power. But in the Melbourne study, they said 1%. So if 1% is personality, in Milgram was 65%. So all the rest was the situation, was the role playing, was the teacher, was the obedience. So again, I'm saying it's almost always better to say, let me try to understand what the situation is bringing out of me, rather than what am I bringing into the situation. Because in general, the social situation will predict better than personality measures.
So there are two questions on that.
Another one.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Jan Solicek from this faculty. I want to get back to the egocentrism, if I can. I feel in general way that even being a hero is being egoistic, because you get the win, you get everything good for yourself because you feel good that you are the hero. So what's the bad thing about being egoistic?
No. I mean, when you do a heroic deed, it should make you feel good. But our ordinary heroes are nonsensical. They say, I did more than you. And they say, what makes me special, by helping you, it makes me feel good. Because you smile, you say thank you, and what I did, I will do nothing for you, I will do for him. And so, ordinary heroes, in our program we say, you're a hero in training. Meaning every day, in every way, in some way, you're going to do something that makes the world better. Person by person, act by act. And you should feel good about it. Other people say thank you. I do something nice to you, makes your life better. So thank you. For example, when I was in Hungary 2 weeks ago, Budapest, our program had a number of famous celebrities, singers, ballerina, comedy writer, comedian. Each of them said, I'm an ambassador of Hero Square, and for the next 30 days, I will do a job. One of them said, I'm going to, if I'm in a bus, a singer, I'll stand up and say, I'd like to sing a little folk song for you, to make the bus ride less boring. And each one said, I'm saying, which normally I would not make, only because it's awkward, it's embarrassing. We don't make social connection, not because you don't know how. It also feels awkward. So again, I say every day this month, I'm going to give someone a compliment. Why don't we do it all the time? I have had students come to me and say, taking your course in psychology changed my whole life. I was doing poorly, I took your course, I majored in psychology, I'm the head of a mental health clinic. That was 40 years ago. I said, why did you wait 40 years to tell me? Students don't give teachers compliments. We don't give each other compliments. So why is it? It just feels awkward. It feels, so essentially it becomes a habit. I mean, you start giving compliments every day. You say, what a beautiful scarf, that really makes you look even prettier. Or that jacket is really dashing. I wish I had one of mine. So just you start to exert something about you. I really like that head. It was really rocks. And then you go from the external to the personal. How do you talk and say, I really like what you said about, or I like the way you phrase it. So you go from external compliments, about how you look, to personal about something you said. And once you do it automatically, and I make a challenge, I will do one a day. People on the bus, on the elevator. Now the new challenge I said is, in San Francisco, which is the most wonderful city in the world. I grew up in New York, I lived in San Francisco 40 years. You must visit. It's a wonderful city. It's the most European city in America. The only problem we have a huge problem with homeless people. We have 7,000 or more people living on the street. Sometimes whole families, many old people, many veterans, many people mentally ill. And many of them are begging. And after a while, people stop giving, so they sit here with a hand out and a pad out, and people pass them by. So I said, my challenge is, every day, I will make some homeless person feel special. I'm going to make them feel as if they're a person without a home. Once you say homeless person, it's like a migrant. A migrant is what? A person who is migrating. Once you put them in the category, migrant, homeless, you treat them different. So now what it means is, I'm going to decide each morning, I'm going to get $1. Usually I get $50. I'm going to get $10. And I'm going to decide to give it probably to an older person, older like me. But what I'm going to do before I give it to them, I'm going to go over and say, hi, I'm Phil Zimbardo. And put your hand on that. What's your name? I go, I'm so sorry, I'm down on your life. I wish I could give you more. This is all about. I'll come by another day. And I need, sometimes that kids in it. Literally, even people give money, they're going back to destroy money. So essentially what you're doing is making them feel as if they're a person who's without a home. They didn't grow up as a person without a home. They were mentally ill, they lost their job, they're traveling from some other place, traveling from some part of America which is freezing in the winter, they come to San Francisco, it's not so cold. But that very act takes 1 minute. 1 minute of my time to make somebody feel special in that very little way. It's not, I can just say, hey, here's $1 and walk on. It's saying, I'm a person, you're a person, we are people, and I'm sorry, I'm in luck, kids over there, and about your business. So this is, again, I say this is a challenge I will do when I get home. And I started actually when I was in Budapest, I started doing it there. And I would encourage all of you to do this.
Now, you're all going to hate me, but this is going to be the last question. So.
Sorry, can you hear me? This is a little bit embarrassing. I'm just above you, so there's no way you can see me. But hi, I'm Elizabeth, and I'm definitely not going to hold back on the compliments because Mr. Zimbardo, you were one of the reasons I went to study psychology, actually. I wanted to ask, basically, I am in my third year right now, and I'm doing my dissertation. And I want to investigate something very relevant to your experiments, but in the opposite direction. What I am trying to look at is whether as a society we can pass certain critical points in our social progress, after which we cannot return back, meaning, for example, if we vote on equality and give women the right to vote, that perhaps a perception or this point of progression in the society is so critical that we can never return back after it. But, well, it's kind of arguing your experiments where the individuals can come back or basically do a social regression in a prison or a situational environment, right? So regarding your entire research, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about it? Is it possible that our society reaches some critical points after which we cannot return back, we cannot regress anymore, and we basically pass them and that's it?
Great question. that is the important, that's the power of law. So, for years, for decades, centuries, women could not vote. Men were in charge. They said women are too emotional. Women are, they don't care enough. Women don't know enough about politics. Politics is man's business. What? It took years. It took many, many women protesting, many women being ridiculed, to finally get one nation to have women voting, and another nation, and now almost around the world, maybe not in some Arab nation, but almost every nation has women voting. You can't even imagine, in fact, more, in many nations, more women, a greater percentage of women vote than men. But once you make that change, you can't go back. I mean, you can't say, okay, now we're not going to have women anymore. So the power of legislation is it changes the way people do business. I'm going to end with a wonderful story. An incredible hero, a woman who changed the law in America. Until 30 or 40 years ago, when you went on a bus or when you went on a train, there was a part of the bus that for colored people only, meaning black people. Black people sit in the back of the bus. They pay the same money as white people. White people sit here, black people sit there. So it's called segregated transportation. And for 100 years, everybody accepted it. You went on a bus. If you're colored, it's a place where you sit there. One day, a woman in her car said, I'm not going to do it. I refuse. I pay the same money as a white person. I'm going to sit wherever I want. What happened was, the bus stopped. The bus driver called the police. They put the woman in prison. They took a picture of her holding a number, 7058. This woman had been a seamstress. She made dresses for rich white women in Atlanta, Georgia. And Atlanta, Georgia was where Martin Luther King had the center of civil rights. So they realized that this woman would be the symbol of civil rights. If the woman who did an ordinary democratic thing to say, my rights should be, if I pay the same as you, I should get the same treatment. And they started a national movement, and the law was changed. The law was changed because this woman had the power to stand up, speak out, and say, I will not do what is expected of me because what is expected of me is wrong. And so there's a case where it's an ordinary hero, ordinary woman. She could have lived her whole life sitting in the back of the bus. And because she said, I don't want to be treated as a second-class citizen. I want to be treated same with women voting. No. I raise a family, I work hard, I do what man does. I should have equal rights to men. And so these kinds of action, this case by a single woman, the other case was almost always a collective of women, changed the way the world is run. Thank you for the question. And now?
Thank you. I have a compliment to make. I mean, this was not only an honor and a privilege to meet you. A rewarding experience, and I don't know about you, I think you had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time. Thank you very much, Professor Zimbardo.